Do you remember your first love? Okay, let me rephrase that. Do you remember your first camera love? The first camera that you saved up and picked up on your own, that you were gonna use to embark on some sort of creative journey, whatever it was. That moment of unbridled optimism. Nothing could be wrong in the world. For me, it was the Nikon D90. I saved together as much as I could to finally pick up that camera, and I carried it with me everywhere, like my Ninja Turtles lunchbox. Rest in peace, Ninja Turtles lunchbox. But I remember just having that camera and feeling like I could take on the creative world. And like most of you watching, you shoot and you shoot and you capture so many moments, and one thing leads to another, and then you may get even more lucrative opportunities and you upgrade to another camera in that family, like the Nikon D7000. And then you get better and better and better, and what do you know, you're ready to step up to full frame and you pick up something like the Nikon D800. And everything just seems possible. And then like me, some of you, maybe not all of you, but some of you might reach this moment where you feel like your creativity is hampered or limited. Maybe you've hit a wall. And while it might be for some, it may not be for others, you decide that the best course of action is to move to a different system. Now for me, I looked at the mirrorless world and there was a lot of innovation happening there that I felt would benefit my career creatively, and it worked out pretty well for me. But I can't help but look back at the Nikon world, that D800 of mine, that D7000, that D90, and reminisce a little bit. So when I got the call that I would get some real time with the Nikon Z6, that's a Z6 folks, I don't care what anyone tells me, that's a Nikon Z6, and the new 2.0 firmware, I won't lie to you, I got some weird emotions. But this video is more about the experience of using this camera and what it's like and how it stands up in the market today. When I got to use the Nikon Z6 when it first came out, it was brief, but there was two things that stood out to me. It was ergonomic, really good in the hands, and for me, at that time, it didn't feel like it was a significantly better offering than cameras that Nikon had in their DSLR world. Now fast forward to June 2019 and Nikon released a big software update, firmware 2.0. Could have picked a creative name if you ask me, but with 2.0 they bring huge advancements to the autofocus, namely in eye detection and low light autofocus detection. With this in mind, I decided to try it out again and really compare it to the other offerings on the market, and this video is more about those impressions. First things first, I gotta talk about the ergonomics again. Picking up this camera, like I mentioned before, felt familiar. It's amazing that despite its small footprint, this camera, they managed to fit a really good grip on it. And it's something that when you pick up, you notice right away. It doesn't have this incredible heft that pictures may show it to have. It's actually really comfortable, not incredibly heavy, but your fingers wrap around this thing comfortably. It feels almost like a sports car, and you will almost immediately recognize that Nikon rubber grip. There's a whole suite of features that Nikon brings along with it. They have a 24.5 megapixel full frame sensor. This thing shoots up to 30p in 4K or up to 120 frames per second in 1080p. It takes a single XQD card, which may be a point of contention for a lot of people out there. I just want you to know that, well, I'm not going to tell you that that's an issue. It may or may not, depending on your environment, and I think you know that better than me. There's a big, beautiful display on the back. There's even an LCD on the top with quick settings, and it takes the familiar ENEL15B battery. I shouldn't know that. But using this camera, it just felt so familiar. Felt like I was coming back home, I guess. It's a weird analogy to make, but again, a lot of you that are using cameras and may have switched from one to the next, it's something that you can relate to. One of the things that Nikon was known for was their menu system, and I'm happy to say that they haven't really changed how it's laid out. Going back in, it's as simple as it used to be. It's like going back to your favorite restaurant and seeing that they haven't changed the recipe for your favorite dish. And even looking at the layout of this camera, it screams Nikon. This company is known for over 100 years of optics, and there's a ton of people, millions of people that have experienced these cameras throughout that history. So when you pick this thing up, you have to give credit that they weren't so impacted by their competitors and felt the need to change everything. No. When you pick this thing up, it feels like they listened and they remembered their design language, like Porsche, right? It would be crazy if Porsche came out and they just had hard corners and strong lines everywhere. No, they're known for the curves. Nikon hasn't forgotten their curves. And while this isn't a technical review, let's call it reminiscing. In the weeks that I had this camera and got to play around with it, it felt and performed amazingly well. It shoots up to 12 frames per second, ISO goes up to 51,200, and while I wouldn't shoot at 51,200 ISO, in between that range, even 1 or 2 stops below that, the images were fantastic. They were absolutely usable, and I, again, really enjoyed using the camera. The autofocus, wow, I mean, this is huge. The face tracking worked really well. It locked onto a subject. I can even tap on the back and tell it what to focus on, and it tracked it scary fast. I mean, really up there with the top tier cameras on the market. And I'm sure there's people out there doing comparisons already, but I'll tell you right now, this should be considered one of the best autofocus systems on the market right now. Using it was incredibly impressive. You don't get the eye detect focus in video, however, in photo, it was, again, really accurate. With respect to video, Nikon has done a great job there, both in terms of navigating and the features that they have. The in-body stabilization impressed me quite a bit. You're gonna see some footage coming up right now when we were in BC. You could use this thing handheld and still get some really usable footage. I tried vlogging with this thing. It's not that bad of a vlogging camera. I mean, it doesn't have that flip out display so you don't know what you're looking at, but for it to reliably grab focus on my face, track it, and that in-body stabilization to counteract my super shaky hands, well, it's something that I really appreciated in a camera like this. And it's not something that works inconsistently. No, this in-body stabilization was actually really good. I'm not going to tell you whether you should get this camera or not. I mean, with any of these videos, that's your decision to make. What I look to do is use this thing and give you my honest opinions and tell you what the experience was like and how do I feel when I picked this thing up. And again, if you're a Nikon user, especially in the DSLR world, I think you're looking at the Z6 or maybe even the Z7, and you should be excited. This may or may not be the next Nikon camera you get. But there's no denying how great this product is right now, especially after that firmware 2.0 update. And I'm excited to see what other updates that Nikon is going to bring to this system. I like this idea where you invest in a product and it gets better over time, not the opposite. But maybe I can give you this. For a long-time Nikon user, someone that's used multiple cameras for, well, nearly or probably over a decade. I don't want to age myself too much here. But for someone to have used that camera, used that system for such a long period of time, ultimately deciding to switch to a mirrorless system, do I look at this thing and think I should switch back? Truth be told, it comes back to economics, and switching from one system to the next can be really expensive. But if this camera came out a year and a half ago, yeah, it'd be part of my system right now. It'd be something that I'd be using and delighted to be using. And that's not a shot against Nikon. I mean, listen, it's hard to say, give me these features a year and a half ago. We can't really make that argument. I can only tell you how I feel. But I'm excited to see what is in the future for Nikon, the cameras that are going to be coming out, and how this family is going to develop. And who knows, maybe in the future, I do switch back, and I go back, and I use this thing, and it becomes a staple in my life like it once was. But I'll leave you with this. If you are a Nikon user, you have a Nikon DSLR, and you're looking to switch to mirrorless, you have to test this thing out. It may be enough for you. It may even be more than enough for you. If you're on another DSLR or another mirrorless system and you're thinking about upgrading to a full frame mirrorless camera, test this thing out. Just give it a test drive and see for yourself. It might be something that surprises you. It might be something that delights you. And really, what else do you need in a mirrorless camera? Thank you so much for watching. Again, this wasn't a first look. This wasn't a review. It was just me reminiscing. If you want to see more videos of me reminiscing, or if you want to see something else, let me know in the comments below. But before you go, hit subscribe on the channel, turn on notifications so you know when a new video comes out. I'm Gadget from Henry's, and I'll see you next time.